Welcome, everyone. I am thrilled to have Dr. Kim Pinckney with me here on the podcast to talk about middle school and puberty. I feel like I have to whisper, uh-oh, right?
I
Like,
know.
oh no, this is going to be tough, right? And it is, and that's why we're here talking about it. So before we jump into it, will you just let everybody know who you are and what you do?
I sure will. And thank you so much for having me, Penny. You know, I've been a
Of
fan of
course.
your work. And even before I got into sort of my advocacy work, when I was like a struggling parent trying to figure out what the heck I needed to do, you were such a voice
Hmm.
in this space for me, in a sense, like a resource and also just like a person. Like I just
Oh,
respected you as a person because sometimes it
thank
can feel
you.
lonely. So thank you.
I'm so
And
glad.
yes, yeah, I am Dr. Kim Pinckney, and I am an instructional designer. I am a performance improvement coach as well, or consultant, and as well as an instructional designer focused on inclusive education and special education advocacy. But most importantly, I'm the mom of a neurodivergent kiddo who has been my biggest inspiration and biggest teacher through all of this,
Mm,
and really sort of changed the trajectory of my professional life and personal life and all of those things. So I
yeah.
did start out, as I'm still K through 12 certified as an educator, and I was a middle school teacher. And so it's one of the reasons why I'm sort of passionate about the middle school landscape. And when I entered the middle school sort of environment as an educator, it was great because I was still young enough to appreciate the budding sarcasm. You know, what I mean, I kind
Right.
of, in some ways, had a baby face, and so sort of blended in. They saw me more as certainly the teacher, but someone that they could also relate to. I still felt like I had my pulse on what was hot, with that sort of generation and what they were into. And it was also a wild ride, right? When you're teaching middle school, you have some kids that come in and they're babies,
Yeah.
right? And some kids that are like grown. And it's a whole trajectory of hormones and levels of maturity and levels of responsibility, levels of really getting into executive function and where you're really starting to see some of that executive dysfunction show up. And I felt like it was a really good primer for me. Like I felt like I had it and really understood all the ins and outs of what that sort of puberty landscape was. And when you're 20 something, you can take that with a grain of salt.
Right.
Like, and they weren't my kids, so I'm helping them, right? I'm supporting them and not feeling like emotionally so tied in such a super connected heart space way as if it were my own kiddo. And then I will tell you that, having my own kiddo who I feel like overnight just entered this puberty space. It seemed like I looked
Yeah.
down the hallway one day and I was like, wait, how are you eye level with me? And now you're taller than me. And where did that voice come from? So it just, I felt like it snuck up on me, even though I knew it was coming and knew all the signs.
Yeah.
And then having a kiddo of my own in puberty was really a wake up call. And then gave me yet another layer of like how to think about all of the things we do and need to do to support and advocate for our kids, all the things we do and then need to do and maybe shift in the public school setting, because it doesn't actually happen overnight. It
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
is a buildup. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
How do we identify that buildup? Because I feel the same as you. One day, this
Hmm.
kid was taller than me,
Hmm.
and it feels like it
Hmm.
happens overnight.
It really
How do we
does.
identify where that's starting then if it isn't overnight?
Well, I think that there are some, just like on a mom sort of level, there is some of that like clothing. Like let's just take that as an example.
Mm,
Like I feel like there was a certain point in time where we kind of leveled out and my son was able to stay in the same size. I'm like, oh, this is great. But when you start to notice like, oh, maybe we're at the edge and we need to go up another size to like that's one little indicator that I think I was like, oh, it's just back to school shopping or whatever. But I think that was sort of an indicator of like, oh, we're about to hit another growth spurt. That's one thing.
mm.
And then I have a son. So also I will say when he started asking for second dinner, I was like, what? What do you mean second dinner? Well,
Yeah.
you should be lucky you got the first dinner. But those types of things I think were clues. And I was like, oh, but knowing that with that growth, are also coming these hormonal changes and all of these other things. Those are like really sort of subtle things. And also the socio-emotional aspect, I could really notice my son starting to become like he was aware of peers and what that looked like before, but really started mentioning like, oh, I wonder what those kids are doing. And really, and actually starting to question like, oh, I'm in this classroom, but why am I not with those other kids? And why do I only see them during certain times of the day? And being curious about other folks instead of just like, oh, this is where I am. There was a new level of awareness that started to come before all of the emotional attachment came. Like, so there was a curiosity. And then we got into this space of like, hey, like I really want to be with other kids. I'm really interested in girls. I'm interested in all these things and sort of the emotions that come around with that. We didn't start with the emotions of like, oh, I kind of want to be with these kids. It was more of a curiosity. And I think that was a clue that I kind of like missed. Because I will tell you the emotional journey of puberty in terms of like really being aware of what your peers think of you in a different way to where it like really gets you to your core and it starts to affect kind of how you even see yourself. And then you're starting to try and figure out, oh, well, can I try and be funny? Should I try on this identity? And like, there's a lot that happens in middle school and it's all developmentally appropriate. And then also there's this other layer of heightened emotions and then heightened sensitivities. Because if you have a kiddo that's neurodivergent, they may not be picking up on all of the subtle social cues, all of the non-spoken kind of like body language that's like, hey, we're really not, you're being tolerated right now. You're not being truly accepted. Or, yeah, I'll talk to you in this environment, but that doesn't mean that we're like now best friends type of a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's one of those things that got me thinking about, though it may seem like it happens overnight, this is a buildup, like over time. And I was even in an IEP meeting, a recent IEP meeting with my son who, he's someone that, you know, had a goal for a long time. Introduce yourself, say hi, and start like, you know, making connections with people when he was younger. And that type of a goal seems great. You want, you know, someone to be able to introduce themselves, say hello, and have like that sort of initial kind of banter with someone, like an initial greeting exchange.
Yeah.
And I remember he had that goal and we were working on that for several years. And it's one thing when you do that, when a kiddo is cute and little. It's another thing when that kid's like, oh, I have this skill set and now I'm interested in my peers in a different way, right? And I'm going to use that skill that you've ingrained in me for all of these years in elementary school. But then it's different when you're in middle school because now he's, you know, 5'8" and a half.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? Looks grown. And he's just trying to say hello. But also in a neurodivergent way, like is approaching it and like it may not come off as like, you know, Joe Cool, he thinks he is, but like people can tell that it's not necessarily the same cool kid type of a vibe. It may feel a little different to them. And then all of a sudden, that skill that you've worked so hard on in society and in like a middle school setting can seem like a threat or, you know, at worst seem a little odd, but like, or at best seem a little odd and then at worst seem like a threat. And so I remember telling the team, because my son got very clever on ways to figure out like who certain people are. He was using the yearbook and then trying to reach out to people. And it makes perfect sense that he would want to do that. But also perfect sense that that would be unexpected to those receiving that, right? Those communication, like, I don't actually know you. How did you figure out who I am type of a thing?
Right.
And I said to the team, I'm like, you know, he's had a goal of introducing himself for several years. And this is a kiddo who is using the tools that he has, right, at his disposal to try and make connections. And he has every right to make those connections. And I don't think we do a good enough job of focusing on a goal and then also focusing on the caveats, right? Focusing on a goal, like when you're generalizing, it's like, oh, let's generalize it to school and in the community. But what about the caveats? What about, yes, introduce yourself. And also recognize when someone's saying, hey, I'm not interested, or hey, that was unexpected. And I don't think that we do a good job of that, which then I feel like once you get to that puberty stage can be a little nerve-wracking and a little dangerous. So I think we have to do a better job of looking at that sort of life cycle of things instead of, okay, this is an appropriate elementary goal. We're going to do that, and kind of let other people worry about the rest. I think we have to be worried about it from the beginning.
that nuance, we don't put that in goals. And
No.
how would we really? Like if a goal was, a novel, maybe, but it's not. And so,
No.
like, I remember my own son coming in sixth grade, and now boys tease each other as
Yeah.
camaraderie, but he would come in the door raging mad that they were bullying him, that they weren't his friends. And I was like, oh, I think we need to start working on that nonverbal stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like
Yes.
it wasn't really a problem, and
Yeah.
then it was a problem. And I'm so glad we're talking about trying to identify earlier and starting to work on that earlier
Yes.
before it's a problem.
That's right. Because I do think even in the language that certain providers, whether they be within the school or external therapeutic providers, they'll just start addressing, like using the word friends. Well, not everybody is your friend. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is your
Yeah.
friend because they're just here. But no, they actually aren't. And no one's ever taking the time then until it becomes a thing to say, oh, well, there's a difference between friends, acquaintances, and someone that you just happen to like know in a setting, right? And while they don't, and I'm not advocating for like, oh, IEPs need to be any longer than they already are because they are long. But I do think that like we should have some sub goals around like,
Yeah.
what happens when you introduce yourself and get a certain reaction and how to like cope with that, or at least start to recognize those things. And even the words that we use, like as therapists, like, are you calling yourself a friend to your client? And what, in the short term, it's about building community and making them feel safe. And in the long term, though, is that setting that particular individual up to think that, oh, anyone that's around me is just going to be my friend and have my best interest at heart?
Right.
Because it's not true, right? And therapists change over time. You age out of things or they switch a job, and then what happens? What is that saying about friendship? I think we have to be really clear and intentional about the language we use. And so for my son, for Gavin, I'd be like, this is your therapist. And he was talking to my dad, his grandfather, the other day, and he's like, Grandpa, maybe you should talk about that with a therapist. Like he's using these terms because I'm clear with him, right? About what this is and what this relationship is, what it's not. So even little things like that, if we can't get to the point where we're looking at all the caveats, can we at least be clear about our language? Because not everybody in the class is friends, and we shouldn't expect everybody to be friends,
Yeah.
right? Like that's not
Yeah.
how life works.
I'm in a graduate program right now with mostly teachers, and they call everyone pal or friend. And I thought it was so endearing. And now I'm second guessing that.
I
Like,
know.
it
I know.
seems benign and sweet,
Correct.
and
Correct.
there's some ambiguity there.
There is some ambiguity there. And then so think about that in a middle school context. If you have, especially a neurodivergent student who has been in environments where therapists are calling them, friends, where everyone, all of the students that they're around are friends and are expected to be friends, but they're like, but wait, I don't actually like so-and-so.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, how are they
I
grappling
know
with that
exactly
and
what you
coming to
mean.
truth? And frankly, some of the best lessons you can have and learn when you're approaching middle school and in middle school is how to be a respectful non-friend, right? Because you're not going to get along with everyone, and that's by design, and that's okay. But yes, you still need to be respectful. And yes, we're not going to promote doing the catty stuff and talking behind people's backs. But it seems just disingenuous to have this expectation that everyone's going to be friends, and then dangerous for a neurodivergent student, because then they're left to grapple with, okay, but I thought they were my friends, but I'm not getting I'm not understanding how they're not talking to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so then you have to, I did this post recently about my son sort of coming to terms. There was a girl that he liked, and they, rightfully so, beautiful girl, lovely person. And she was friendly with him. Great. They were talking on the phone. Great. And it seemed reciprocal. And then at a certain point in time, it was like, I could tell that, she was fading this back, right? And was not being truthful to him, and was saying like, oh, I got my phone taken away. Sorry, blah, blah, blah. I can't talk. But that wasn't the case, because it went on for a long time, and clearly he was, then blocked or what have you. But it's this piece around who's then left to give ground truth to these students. And it fell on me, right? So I am having to Because I don't want him in a non-reality space. That could be very dangerous too. Like, I don't want you
Yeah.
living with in a dream world. Like, this is someone who, yes, I understand you want so desperately for this person to be your friend. And let's look at the evidence of the behavior that's not actually friend-like, right?
Yeah.
If they don't want to talk to you outside of school or aren't talking to you outside of school, that's not really friend-like behavior. So maybe this is an acquaintance, and it takes a long time to get there, like repetition of these little nuggets, because I'm having to break my son's heart.
Yeah.
Wants this relationship so bad, he's deserving of it. But hey, haven't we all been in situations where they don't want us back? Like, it's a
Yep.
life experience.
Yeah.
But if I'm not there to tell him, hey, but look at this evidence and measure that up against our definitions of friendship and what you would expect, then I have to gently break his heart while simultaneously holding space for that heartache, right? But my point of that is, like, we need a little bit more of that reality embedded in the landscape. Because I think when we are calling everybody friends and hey pals and hey this and hey that, it sets folks up to live in a world that is not based in reality. And also doesn't give them the tools to recognize when someone is not showing up in their life in a way that is honoring their value and their inherent humanity. It's inhibiting them for them being a self-advocate in that way.
Yeah.
Because they're in a la-la land about it, right? And so that's the sort of thing that I think is one of the most critical things, is really we have to be honest.
Yep.
Be honest in an age-appropriate way, but like calling yourself the therapist when you are the therapist, low-hanging fruit. Referring to the folks in the class not as everybody's friends, but we're classmates, accurate and also age-appropriate, right?
Yeah.
I think it lends itself then for that conversation around friends versus acquaintances.
And there's a point where most of our neurodivergent kids start to be able to pick up on that nuance, right? To pick up some of those signals. In sixth grade, my son didn't, right? In carpool, I could tell that they were trying to blow him off, but he was completely oblivious. And for a while, I was like, thank goodness he doesn't know. Thank goodness they're not breaking his heart.
I get that too. Yep.
And then I was like, wait a minute. We can't live in a fairyland all the time. It's not preparing them for later. It's such a hard thing to accept as a parent, that we need to let our kids struggle, that we need to let them feel pain. We don't want that, right? What parent wants that? And for me, it was really hard to make that shift and to be able to sit back sometimes. But it sounds like that's really how we prepare them better for real life in the real world, which is what we worry about, right?
And it is, to your point, Penny, it is devastating. Like, I'm telling you about this situation where I'm having to break this down for my son. I definitely had to take some time for myself because it broke my heart too. Do you know what I mean? Like, it breaks my heart too. And of course there are those moments where you're like, oh, thank goodness he's not picking up on this side eye over here or whatever. But also, there will be a time when I'm not here, you know? And so it's only okay if he's in La La Land because I'm here and I know that it was La La Land, so I can sort of set things, but that's not what this is, right? We really want our kids to be as independent as possible. And so independence and life itself involves both ups and downs. Unfortunately, our kiddos will experience, more sort of negative reactions or disciplines and all of those things. We know that to be true. And I think the hardest part, but our most important sort of task, is to let our kiddos experience the pain that's coming up in their lives, and also showing them that there's someone there that's holding space for them while they're going through it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Helping them co-regulate so that when we aren't there, they then are able to access their self-regulation tools. Right? Because we can't protect, I can't protect my son from, heartbreaks and negative messages he may get from someone else. But it is my job to make sure that at least I've done my part in letting him know how special and unique and how worthy he is, so that he can recognize when someone is showing up as a friend. So
Yeah.
he can recognize when someone is treating him well and is worthy of that like reciprocal relationship. It's no easy task. It is hard. And the
Yeah.
other thing I sort of mentioned in our little pre-talk is like, you know, all of this is happening at the same time where I, as a parent, am going through my own hormonal changes, right?
Yes.
Like, there's a lot going on. And so I just want to hold space for those who are like either in perimenopause or menopause while also having a kiddo in puberty because it is no easy feat. There's lots going on. But I also think that because I am experienced some changes of my own, it makes me empathize too, right? With
Yeah.
hormonal changes that he's going through. It would have been nice if it was a little more staggered. I will say that, but at least there's that empathy piece, right? And then I can be honest with him about, hey, I'm feeling differences too in my body or whatever, and like just sort of relating on that level. And I think we've had some really great one-on-one conversations because of that empathy and because of that safety that we've established.
That relationship is so key. So key. And I think what you're describing builds even more trust because they
Right.
know that we've got them, but they also know that we're going to be real with them.
Correct.
That we're not, just, I love you, you're my kiddo, everything's going to be great, right?
Right.
Like they get more trust with honesty, really.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what you just said actually reminds me of this incident. My son, we had just moved states, and he was starting a new school. It was starting the middle school as a fifth grader. It's fifth through eighth grade. And I said to him, I had to drive him because they didn't have the bus service set up, any of that stuff. So I'm dropping him off at school, and I said, "Have a great day." He walks a little bit and then pauses. And this is a kiddo with expressive and receptive speech delay. He's always been vocal, uses mouth words, but like when he says something and he's pausing, it means something. So he walks a little bit, pauses, turns back around to me and says, "Mom, I don't know what type of day I'm going to have."
Oh,
And I was like, huh. But it was his way of telling me with real intentionality and focus, like, I don't know what this is going to be. You can't just like blow smoke and mirrors in my face. This is scary. This is a new school. It's big. I don't know any of these kids, and let me have my feelings. And I can't promise you it's going to be this great day that you want me to have. You know what I mean? And that was like, oh, I got to let you feel what you're feeling. I got to let you experience what you're experiencing. Of course, I hope for you as your mom that it's a great day, but I can't force a great day on you. That's out of my control. What I can do is be here to receive you when you get home. And if it's a great day, hold space for that. If it was a scary day, hold space for that, right? And figure out what we can do to make it a little less scary the next day. But yeah, it was one of like these big lessons. I still remember it like crystal clear because it was so impactful. And I think sometimes we want to wish away our kids' pain. We want to wish away difficult times, and you cannot do that.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
cannot do that.
You can't. I'm wondering if a change in language would have helped. Like if you had said, I hope today is a great day, would that have been enough of a change? Or would that still feel like pressure to have a good
Yeah.
day and not really be in control of it? Like our kids, when they walk into a school building, they are not in control
No.
of whether or not they have a good day. That's just
No.
reality.
It is. And I think for him at that time, because it was such a major shift, that I think even that change in language would have felt like pressure to him. I think that what would have resonated with him at the time was, buddy, whatever day you're going to have, just know I'm here for you when you get home.
Yeah.
You know, because it was so uncertain. There were so many variables that it's like, hey, we I hope the best for you, but whatever it's going to be, I'm here for you at the end of the day. Right. And that this is your safe
We all
space
need
where
that.
we're going to work. Yeah. Where we're going to work through stuff together. But yeah, it was a really, really big lesson. So I'm really intentional about like the language I'm using that seems great, seems benign, right? Hey, pals, have a great day, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But is that really holding space for his experience? Is that really honoring who he is, like what he's going to need? And I'm finding no, I have to just be more real with him. And then he in turn is real with me in ways that I don't always like. But it is,
Yeah.
we have a relationship based in honesty, and I really appreciate that.
It's everything. It's everything. And what we're talking about can get better, right? I want to end on this, like, it can get better. Like, I remember in 7th or 8th grade, my son had started robotics after school, finally found his people, right? And got in the car, and one day after school, and at that point, I think I had stopped asking, how was your day? Because it was met with a lot of grumpiness and silence. Sure. And I said something different, but he said, you know what? I finally have real friends. He said, you know, when someone comes up and they talk to you first and you didn't even know they were there yet, I have those friends now. That's and amazing. I went home and cried because I was like, I could cry now just having you say that. Goodness, we've done this. Like, I even have goosebumps now, and that was 10, 11 years ago.
Yes, of course.
And it was, I think for me, the tears were, he's going to be okay. Yeah. This does get better. Yeah. He's going to have friends. That's right. It's going to be okay. And he's going to have the real friends, not the ones who are placating and pacifying and, you know, trying to be polite, but don't really want to spend time. Now he's found his people. Amazing. And it happens. It does. It's just later.
Well, later, but also, again, I think at the same time, right? Because you have to be continuously exploring, like, what are your interests and what things do you want to try out, right? So, like, my son is really into swimming. He has a flair for the dramatique. I don't know where he gets that from. But no idea. No idea. But we found this great group, a theater group that's specifically, it's like improvisational games. It's called Sidari, and I forget what the acronym spells out to. But improvisational theater-based games specifically for neurodivergent teens.
Wow.
And he had done some theater before, and then he had stopped because he had like a bad social experience. And then this was a perfect entryway back. And it's like, he's like, Mom, do I have group this week? Like, it's like that, like preemptive, like, but with excitement, not like, Mom, do I have group this week? It's like, Mom, like, it's that, you know, elevated like intonation. And I can tell that he's interested, and I can tell that he's enjoying the company of those folks. Right. And then those moments where he's in a certain setting and someone, will come up to him and say like, hey, Gavin, and they're given a pound or whatever. Like, those moments are really, really cherished. Like when you're seeing your kiddo's face light up, right? And I wouldn't have known, like, you have to keep trying things, right? Before you can see what's really going to work and where they're going to find their people. But that's the magic. And so when he's in those times of struggle, when there's someone, a friend that he wants to be a friend that's not really a friend, I remind him, well, how does this feel in this situation? Versus this other situation where your voice is like, hey, Mom, like, are we having group? Am I going to see so-and-so today? Versus, I wonder why this person isn't, you know, that anguish, like, in trying to get him to see those differences so that he can really continue to fill his cup from those experiences where they are authentic and reciprocated. Carry him through those hard parts. And then, so we'll get to some more of those, like some more of those hard parts. But yeah, I think such a journey, and thank you for sharing that scenario with your son, because it honestly almost brought me to tears. And that's the thing, right? Like, it does get better, but the way to get to better is being honest, authentic, pointing these things out so that they're not in la la land and they can actually get to find their true people. That's what we ultimately want. Yeah.
And when they find their true people, they know it. Like, if we keep saying everybody's a friend, how are they going to be able to distinguish?
They can't discern them, because then people that treat me bad are my friend. People that don't talk to me at all are my friend. People that do say hi to me are my friend. Like, what does that even mean? You know?
Difference between being friendly and being a friend, right? Correct. I think that's what we're really talking about, is like, we want kids in the classroom to be friendly to each other, but it doesn't mean that they're all going to be true friends with each other. And that's okay. Like, that's real life.
It really is. And there are, you know, even like me as an adult in the workforce, like, I have people that are acquaintances, and that's perfectly fine. I respect my acquaintances, but that's where they are, right? I have colleagues, people that I respect collegially, but they're not my friends, and that's okay. And then I have my friends, and it's a small circle for me because I, you know, I'm an introvert and I like my time to myself. That's fine, but I know who those people are, right? And I'm not
Yeah.
trying to conflate anything and make an acquaintance a friend. Like that's just, we all have that in our lives. And I do point that out to my son as well. Like, same thing for mommy. Like I'm not just putting this on you. This is what I'm going through too. But yeah, that's what life is about. And I think middle school and puberty is one of those times where these things start to surface. But again, I can't iterate enough. It doesn't just start at middle school. We have to think about the trajectory of like what's happening before, then once we get there, and how can we be more honest at all those phases, right? Even though it may
Yeah.
be difficult or hard. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Will you tell
You're
everybody
welcome.
where to find you online so that they can learn
Yes,
more,
yes,
potentially
of
work with
course.
you, all that good stuff?
So on LinkedIn, I am Dr. Kim Pinckney on LinkedIn as well as Dr. Kim Pinckney on Instagram. You can find me there, and I have a link tree and all of that good stuff. I can share the links with you to
Yep,
post with
we'll share all
the
of that
podcast.
in the
Yes.
show notes as well. That can be found at parentingadhdandautism.com. Thank you. You're such a infectious, warm person. Like
I
I
so
have the
appreciate
best
that.
time talking with you. It always
Likewise.
makes my day better. I appreciate it
Awesome.
so
Thank you
much.
so much,
So
Penny. I appreciate you and all the work you
we'll
do.
have you back soon, I'm
Okay.
sure. All
Sounds
right.
good.
Take care,
Thank
everyone.
you.
I'll see you next time.